What are the chances of a new deal being reached today?
Well, there's cautious optimism in Brussels, London and Dublin about a new agreement, but we're not really being told many of the details about what it might entail. The British Sunday Times reported yesterday that Rishi Sunak has shunted aside one of his predecessors, Boris Johnson, to get a new version of the Northern Ireland Protocol together that will be acceptable to the European Union. Boris Johnson in particular wanted to revise quite a lot of the provisions in a bill that he originally introduced shortly before he fell from power last year. The Northern Ireland Protocol was a compromise to solve one particular headache of Britain leaving the European Union, and that was more specifically the common market. Brussels insisted that there could not be a free flow of goods without customs checks between the EU and the UK. That would mean a reintroduction of customs checks on the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. They had been done away with in 1993, but the Irish government and many people in Northern Ireland itself wanted to avoid that because so many people, tens of thousands of people, cross the border multiple times every day for work. In fact, sometimes even short car journeys of 10 to 15 miles would entail crossing it 2 or 3 times. So the protocol instead put the border between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which meant that goods coming from Great Britain would be checked on arrival. That has been unacceptable to some in the UK. Boris Johnson's government attempted to roll it back. The EU has been somewhat impatient with the change of heart, but they do seem to be more receptive to working with Rishi Sunak than either Johnson or Liz Truss. And it looks to be working. Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab at the weekend said that London was on the cusp of a deal with the EU.
So it does seem hopeful, but Oliver, the very minute the Northern Ireland Protocol came into effect, it's been a source of tension. Why is that?
Well, the protocol has resolved practical difficulties, but it's the symbolism of dividing the United Kingdom has outraged both hardline Brexiters and also some Ulster Unionists, particularly the Democratic Unionist Party, which until last year was the largest party in the Northern Ireland Assembly. And some of the very same people who negotiated it are unhappy with it, as former Irish ambassador to the UK pointed out on Twitter yesterday. David Frost, who was the UK's chief negotiator during the Brexit negotiations, had said back in 2020 that the UK had secured an excellent deal. Now, he is now saying that the protocol is a bad idea as it merely boosts ties with the EU. Now, the new plan will reportedly introduce a new 2-lane system between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. That means that British goods going to Northern Ireland for sale there from trusted traders, they will largely be free of any checks. But goods that are going, which will ultimately end up in the Republic of Ireland, i.e. in the EU, they will go through a separate channel. The EU will have access to data on those via a database. Now, that will probably still not be enough to please opponents of the protocol. About 50 Tory MPs are expected to rebel against the government when it goes to a vote. Not sure if it will go to a vote immediately after an agreement is reached. The DUP in Northern Ireland is also unhappy and not being consulted by Rishi Sunak or even been allowed to see the text of the agreement. They are continuing to refuse to form a government with Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland for the past year, and this is because they refuse to do it while the protocol is in place. However, it may not even have a mandate for that because 53 of the Northern Ireland Assembly's 90 members come from parties that actually do support the protocol, and there's actually very, very little opposition to the protocol within Northern Ireland itself. For Britain itself, an agreement with Brussels would probably head off worries that it could face legal action for reneging on the original protocol should Boris Johnson's revisions to it ultimately become law, because that law is not dead as of yet.
We'll see how things pan out today. Thank you very much for that, Oliver Farry there.